week has been pretty fantastic. My options were pretty limited, right? And, being homeless and panhandling. But I started developing a business, and the valuation on ChatGPT is saying that it's already at 6.5 million, right, to 8.5 million, and that's a conservative estimate, right? So I'm pretty pumped about that, and it's just a beginning, right? I'm pretty obsessed with it. So I'm hoping to get a loan for a fourplex, and so I could use. I'll live in one unit, and then will be my office and my personal residence, and then two will be like an Airbnb, and then one will be an Airbnb like event location for my business. It's going to be Future X, FX Universe Holdings. So special effects or fun times the universe, because Funiverse is better than universe, right? Let's make some fun in life. And anyways, so one thing Canada needs to do is all countries should that are big, but especially Canada, because we're big and we're underpopulated, right? We have more look at how much population China and America has, and Russia compared to Canada. We're the four big, all the biggest countries by land on the planet. Canada's one of the least populated, right? So that being said, what Canada needs to do is create some towns, create some cities, instead of making all these foreigners come to Toronto and driving up the property value there, where of all ethnicities, foreigners can be white too, right? There's a lot of immigrants, so get these immigrants to start new towns along the Trans-Canada Highway particularly, and ideally, if there's a highway that could go east from Edmonton's fairly north in northern Alberta, so if it could go north or east all the way across to Ontario, another highway, and then in between, in between Calgary and Edmonton, I don't know the distance there is, but then, if you build a big city, where you want a big city every three hours, and then you can build a small city in between every hour and a half, and then, because the Espanola region, is an area that I want to develop, right? Once I start having money coming in, I'm going to be buying property there, and I'm going to start building my own city, right? Because that's the thing that used to happen in the 1800s, and that if you look at America and in Canada, there's a lot of cities that were founded by moguls, right? Like Carnegie in the States, he founded Pittsburgh, right? The whole city of Pittsburgh exists basically because how many jobs that guy created in that area, right? So anyways, Espanola is a beautiful area. I'll just show you on the map here, but all you see are lakes. So you could, hopefully in 50 years from now, once I start investing in there, and other people do too, hopefully there's at least 1 million people there, because you could have a camp, a camp or a cottage for people that aren't from Ontario. If you could have a cottage 20 minutes away from downtown, and on a private lake. So Espanola. But if you see, once I zoom out here, so you can already see all the water nearby, right? And fresh water, we need fresh water to drink, right? So eventually there should be people almost virtually 100% around all the Great Lakes, because that's where the fresh water concentration on the planet, right? So it only makes sense to try to support a bunch of people around the Great Lakes. So that you can already see in these pictures here how beautiful Espanola is, right? It's imagine living in a future city, but having this kind of geology all around you. Watch when I show you the maps here. All I see are lakes. Imagine how fun this would be if there's 1 million people, in this area, about 1 million people in that area, about 40 square kilometers around Espanola. Because look at all the lakes. these are big lakes. Like, look, they're showing up on a map. Look how zoomed out I am, and like, imagine how big these lakes are, right? So you could, so like, there should be about 1 million. Like this, I'm hoping Sudbury and Espanola starts developing into some big, like almost like the Greater Toronto area, or starting with Sudbury, right? Sudbury already has all the foundations, so making it bigger. But again, I'm going to start developing a lot of businesses here because the geology is beautiful. Like, look at when I zoomed in, all the lakes there. Imagine, like, just think there's especially if these lakes were stocked with fish, right? So like the tourism, like fishing industry, like this could be a fly-in fishing area for sure, right? And look, you're not too far from probably Lake Huron or something. Yeah, it's Lake Huron. So you're not too far from Lake Huron, and so but even Spanish is kind of, it wouldn't have to be, but ideally populating all along the Trans-Canada, because it's pretty long and boring, but the geology of Northern Ontario is so beautiful that it's a shame that it's not populated, because not enough people get to see its beauty.
Are you okay?
I'm good.
How long?
What's that?
How long is that?
Not too long. Don't worry. So, anyways, even though I'm unofficially more important than what I appear to be, I've yet to. Well, that was the first time I got harassed today, like by two people who already talked to me today, right? So they pretend that Christian Erik Arne Meyer is not myself. That's why when I spoke, my face changed, because that's very computer interface, right? So basically, I'm the most powerful person on the planet, like unofficially. And so how, like, watch how shocked I'm gonna look like when I looked at Brad Pitt. Wow, I look like Brad Pitt. Wow. Like, does Brad Pitt wish he looks like me? Does Brad Pitt wish that he is Christian Erik Arne Meyer? I'm gonna tune into him again. Yeah, so he does. So he shouldn't have killed anybody though. So, but there are certain people, like I am better looking if people like Brad Pitt are commandeering me rather than people that are less good looking. Because over the last 5 months, 2 people said I look like Brad Pitt. So did Brad Pitt grow his hair long because he knew Christian Erik Arne Meyer was going to grow his hair long? What about Leonardo DiCaprio? Pretty strange. So anyways, populating and developing land in around the Espanola Spanish area would be fantastic. Maybe even right in the middle of it, and then like just right halfway between Spanish and Espanola, and then just try to plant a city there, and ideally offer people a lot of money to relocate a little bit north, ones that want to stay in small towns, because that land is so beautiful up there. Imagine how many trails you could have. It could be such a little, like, it'll take a while, but it only took 30 years from Barrie to go from 75,000 people to about 140,000 people. Well, more than that, 30 years, because I remember as a kid driving by Barrie, Ontario, there's 25,000 people. Now there's 140,000 people, right? So maybe 50 years is a little ambitious for 1 million people, but not if Canada just brings a lot of immigrants, if they make them just go to these new cities by the boatload, right? Like, basically, hey, you want to come to Canada? They're like, yeah, we want to come to Canada. And then it's like, okay, guess what? Buy a tent and then come here, because you're going to be living in a tent while you're building your residences as workers, right? And then they build the city, right? And it could be an economic boom, because Northern Ontario, like I haven't been to the East Coast, right? Which would be phenomenal, because you could see whales and stuff like that. But I've been to Quebec City, which is a beautiful city. It's the oldest city in North America, right? So it's phenomenal. But Ontario is one of the best provinces, best looking provinces. Like I'd say it's probably Alberta, because the mountains, right? The Rocky Mountains, and then BC, and then Ontario, then Quebec that I've seen so far. And but those are the 4 big like lots of geology, because with Ontario there's the Canadian Shield that from the last ice age that pushed a bunch of rock. That's why around like even Sudbury could be a tourist hotspot for the geology, right? Like there needs to be more buildings that are more observational structures, like from the Canadian government needs to be putting observational structures all along where you can pay money to catch an elevator up to the top of this fantastic view of northern Ontario, like all the lakes, right? Like when you want a view, either you have a bunch of like the skyline of a city to look at, or you have seen the lakes, the trees, and the geology changes, and animals ideally is absolutely beautiful. So Canada needs to, instead of printing more money, if they do print more money, they need to realize how are they going to get more money back, right? For every dollar they print, they want to get like say $5 to $10 back, right? So it's getting immigrants to relocate to areas in Canada where they want to say, well, you can't just go to the big cities, and because really they come to the big cities and then they compete with Canadians for these good jobs. So because people in Toronto make some of the most on the planet, right? Whereas in around Espanola they don't make that much money, right? You know what I mean? So regular Canadians, they're not as economically they don't have the same opportunity as they do like immigrants that just come to Canada in big cities, because nobody likes immigrants, because immigrants comes to your city and they take your jobs, your house, and even partners away from the potential, right? They take good looking men and women away from the dating market. But whereas like Canada could say, hey, we want to offload 200,000 people in the Spanish Espanola region over, like I'm hoping they do over the next 10 years. That'd be fantastic, right? Like it could grow into then we, like immigrants, they could build it exactly how they want it, right? And have Canadians, they'll support the Northern Ontario all the way from like say Elliott Lake to Sudbury, right? Like it would support that industry, and because it should be heavily populated. Northern Ontario is like so sparse, why are all these immigrants, like, because they go to the big cities, but like to see real Canada you need to go to the smaller communities, because that's where real Canadian life is, right? It's not like it is in Toronto for most people, right? Like there's outdoor skating rinks, and one thing I wish Canada would do is since we love hockey, is to make it so throughout each city how if your kid plays, because when my son was younger, I had to stop, like he would have to stop playing t-ball part of the game to go play soccer. So it wasn't, the leagues weren't coordinated to like synchronize to be able to make it so your kids can play all the sports that they want to play. So one thing that kids should be playing in Canada is a rollerblade league in the summertime for the hockey players. It's the same. Playing rollerblade in the summertime is it's the same skills as hockey, right? So it translates and would produce better hockey players for Canada, right? And that's our national sport. So ideally, if a bunch of immigration to smaller areas where Canada strategically wants to develop, like Northern Ontario is beautiful, right? Like it takes 14 hours to get out of out of Ontario from Toronto driving, right? And there's very little population. Like after there's less than, I don't know, probably a million people, less than a million people from north of Barrie, like not counting Barrie, well even counting Barrie. Even counting Barrie, there's probably like less than a million people in like 14 hours, like driving 100 kilometers an hour or 90 kilometers an hour for 14 hours, right? Like that's a long time for only like maybe like 800,000 people or whatever it would be, right? Like Thunder Bay probably has say 200,000 people, Barrie has 140,000 people, and then see Sudbury has another 160, so there's 500,000 people, Sault Ste. Marie about 75,000 people. And so less than probably 700,000 people for that much area, right? Like where it's beautiful, because the summers are hot, the winters are cold, mind you, but when there's concrete and it's a bigger city, it's warmer in a big city because the concrete absorbs the heat, and so the winters are warmer, right? And could be a new city, so it can be designed to ergonomically, so when the sun comes up and goes down in the wintertime, it's the main street gets the maximum sunlight, so there's less ice developed in the wintertime, right? So it's being strategic. There could be some of the technologies my company's going to be coming up with in the future being utilized, and then but there could be heated highway sections for like dangerous parts, and can be made into a very scenic, and because a lot of people can work from home, right? And I'll be doing a lot of business there because I think it's such. I was there in March, and it's such beautiful land. I was in Toronto. There's no snow in Toronto, so I'm like, oh, maybe I want to go up and spend about a month in the bush and just hiking and all around Espanola. Like I'd never get bored of hiking, like with all those lakes and fishing spots that people could have, and so I'm going to be advocating about developing the fishing, like when flying fishing, and maybe a big fishing tournament for Espanola too. Because all the lakes, and developing money, I'm going to be buying property there for sure, like as soon as I have money, because it's such a beautiful land, and I'm going to do it myself, like as an entrepreneur. I'm going to try to develop the cities. I'm going to try to plant a city somewhere, because like Old Woman's Bay in Ontario is another spot where it's just so beautiful that it should be appreciated by like 1 million people every day, just the natural beauty. So with Old Woman's Bay, like ideally it'd be like to keep from the highway looking west, like at the bay and everything, keeping that picturesque, like a postcard view where you can't really see too much urban development, but then behind the highway, on the right hand side of the highway going west, be urban development, right? Like with everything that you could want, right? Like but those are two areas in Ontario, and like just throughout my another strategy I'm going to have is by freeway ramps. I'm going to develop property that's not being utilized, and where I can throw a building or just start developing, right? Like, because ideally, like if you're like a 10-minute drive from, like if you see on a map and there's a freeway exit and you're about a 10-minute drive away from like a Walmart and a grocery store or a hospital, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to put a building there, right? Like, you know how many people go to Walmart every day? They probably make like $10,000 an hour, right?